No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
All right, gardeners. Welcome to the Urban Gardener channel and the Let's Get Growing show here on Saturday mornings. It's great to have all of you with me here this weekend. I am running just a little bit late, so I've been kind of in a hurry getting everything set up here, getting everything going, but really glad to be here this week. Lots growing on this week as well, too. I hope you've had a lot growing on for you in your gardens as well, too. And if you're here with us, be sure to give us a big thumbs up. Hit the like button right up at the top of the show and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. We'd love to have you here following along with all of our garden adventures on the Urban Gardener channel. And of course, share with all your friends, your garden groups. Help us get the word out about our show. We'll be kicking off here in a few weeks with some new guests and some new discussions and a whole new season. It's just gonna be really great. So be sure to come along and follow along with us there. Be really, really great to have you. And as well, too, you can check us out at letsgetgrowing.live. And a big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching our replay right now. A lot of you watch the replay versus being here live, although we love to have all of you here with us live and part of the discussion and all of that. We know that a lot of you got to watch us on your own time when you can and you have the free time. So big shout out to all of you who do check out our show later in the week. And be sure to get down in the comment section below. Let us know you are here. Let us know what you've got growing on. And for anybody, get in the comments and let us know what you think of the show. Do you got any ideas for some upcoming guests and all of that for our show? Anything like that, any feedback, I love it. Make sure it's really nice and constructive, but I would love to hear what you got to say about what we've got growing on here at the Let's Get Growing show. And again, too, get into the comment section there. And if you have any questions or anything like that, and we might feature it here on the show, definitely get into the comment section there and leave some questions or something here too to help keep the conversation going. I just basically, like I said, have just kind of been rushing to get things going to here. Kind of a little bit of a late start. Plus, I was working on another little project that kind of like got me, you know what I mean? Get your mind rolling. And I had to look up and looked at the clock and was like, oh no, I've got to get really get moving here. We got a show to get going on here. So I apologize for the little bit of a late start there. But anyways, it's great to be here with all of you. Let's see here. Let's jump into the comment section real quick and acknowledge we got Jay with us for sure. Jay, thanks for joining with us here, our moderator for the show. Great to have him here, dropping in links and everything into the comments section. So yeah, basically, I didn't really think too much about what we were going to talk about today. So again, we'll just kind of talk about what's going on in our gardens. Let's see what happens. And if, like I said, if you got any questions, you got any comments, or definitely let me know if you got anything or what you got growing on in your gardens and all of that. And I think today we'll talk a little bit about what did you learn from your garden last year? You know, I'll talk a little bit about that, what some things I learned from this last year as well. So definitely jump in there and chat with us and talk all about your gardens here too this week again. So actually, first off, we released a couple of videos this week. Finally, I mean, I did it. Worked really hard at making sure getting some editing done and put together a couple of little videos. We talked about this last week as well. I had filmed already some footage of planting out all of our pepper varieties that we're growing for this year, and we've got them all under the lights, and we're waiting for them to pop up here soon. It should be any day we'll start seeing some of those first ones popping up there. So we did a little garden journal and did a little video on planting out all of our seeds, making a seed starting soil mix. We've talked a little bit about that over the last couple of weeks. Just a basic, nice and easy soil mixture that I use for all of my indoor seed starting mix. I prefer to make my own seed starting mix because it's, you know, I bring it in. It's not anything I'm buying. So I've gotten seed starting mix, other potting mixes, and I've got to literally take those out of the bag and mix those up and shuffle those up over a couple of days in a completely different room, in a completely different area, just to be sure that I'm not getting any like fungus gnats or anything else that's coming in with that. So if I make my own seed starting mix, I'm assured that I'm not going to be dealing with any of those sort of things, and it really just helps get my seeds off to a really good start. And it's just basic, you know, cocoa coir, some vermiculite, and some worm castings. And then this year I'm putting in just a little bit of bone meal to get them all started and get all those little seedlings a good real kick when they come up and germinate and start building those root zones and all of that. We should have some good, strong, healthy plants. And so we got that all done. And in the video, I also showed you our seed starting light station I've got. It's, you know, it's a really just do it yourself PVC pipes kind of connected together all around a table, and with shop lights kind of hanging there. So it's kind of a, you know, a real basic setup, but it's really inexpensive. I put it together, you know, I was thinking, you know, at least 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. So I've had it for quite a while. And that just goes to show you that it works year in and year out and does the job and helps me get all of my seedlings started. We don't need big, heavy, expensive lights or anything. These are just seedlings. And during the wintertime, I use that lighting station to also grow microgreens. And then sometimes I'll put some little small plants or plant starts or different things throughout the year under there because, you know, it's got the lights going. And it's all set up to a timer. So the timer comes on. It's got a fan too as well. So that's all hooked up to a timer. So when I've got seedlings or microgreens or things growing, I'll have that fan that comes on intermittently and blows air and just gives some circulation. And also for some of those young seedlings, helps build stem strength and root strength. So we have an intermittent fan, so it kind of does both those jobs. It kind of helps with the seedlings and building their strength and giving some circulation as well. And the circulation more for our microgreens. We're not looking to try to build up any strength of those. They're just harvestable after a few days. So yeah, so check out that video. It's on our front homepage for the channel here, The Urban Gardener, and check out that it's a garden journal. So that's hopefully what I'm going to do, is if I can keep up with it some way, some form, try to put together a weekly garden journal. And that way you all can follow along in a video journal of what's going on in our gardens, in our different garden spaces and all of that. Because I talk about it here, and it's really good for you to be able to check out some videos and actually see it. So we're getting everything started up, and you should be able to follow along with all of our gardening throughout the year on our garden journal videos. And then what I also did too is I put out a little separate video for that soil seed starting mix, and and um, and so that's kind of what I'm going to try to do too, as well, is try to put out these little, and I might actually do a little video separate of the garden journal of the light station and put these out as separate, smaller, shorter videos just on these individual things, and see how well I can try to keep up with that sort of thing. Cause that's the big question. is whether or not I could actually, keep up and maintain the pace of videos. We'll try the best I can. I mean, there might be some weeks I might get a little busier with some other things. I'm going to try to film everything I'm doing throughout the year, so at least I'll have footage. So in one way or form, I'll try to at least keep you up to date with everything that we have growing on throughout the growing season, throughout our different gardens. We got our alleyway and back patio gardens, and then eventually, hopefully during the season at some point, I'm going to try to get back up onto the carport rooftop and start setting up our new rooftop garden and all of that as well too. So those will be some fun things to check out. Eventually, we're going to hopefully, I'm still trying to work out some details with the owner and find out what we can do, but it'll be a really fun garden series, one that I really enjoyed years ago watching John Kohler do when he kind of um, reset his whole front yard and built out all these garden beds and stuff. So that's kind of hopefully what we'll be able to do too, is build out some raised beds and kind of set up the front yard in a kind of a cool raised bed and garden situation out there, and transform that whole front space as well too. Something we only see occasionally for certain different things depending on what we're doing on our videos, but hopefully that space will come open and we'll be able to use that as more garden space, more growing space, more ways to build and set up our whole system and what we've got growing on here. Ultimately, what my goal really is to be able to have all of these different setups and show gardening in different types of ways throughout our whole space here, which is kind of expanded. I mean, it really started with just the back patio. That's all I envisioned. And now we're in all these different types of spaces. But having that ability, we're lucky in the fact that we can show all these different types of gardening spaces, either through videos that we do, but eventually what I would really like to be able to do is do some more local type growing classes here in our space and show people how and what they can do to even transform their sort of spaces as well, through what we've done here. And that's, again, plans I'm working on throughout this next year. So hopefully those things will start developing too, and we'll be able to start showing all of those things in videos and different things as we move forward. But definitely go check out our videos, go watch those, give those thumbs up, hit those like buttons and all of that on those videos, and help us get some traffic, as they would say, on our content, and help us build our audience here. Let's see here. Let's see. We've got, oh, Darth X joining with us. Good to see you here. Thanks for jumping in the comments section there. Darth says, from last year, I learned I should put more effort into watering by having an irrigation system and shade cloth in the summer to protect the plants. Yes. Okay. This is, yeah, really great stuff. Something I definitely got to work better on myself, and is definitely going to have to be a part of our strategy in dealing with those hotter times of the summer, is shade cloth, more so, but definitely adding and putting in some irrigation in spots that I haven't had it before. I did set up some water drip irrigation a couple of seasons ago for the patio area and all of that. It does need to be reworked. I've got to get it reset up. We do have timers and all of that, so we can ensure that they're turning on and off throughout the day without having to go out there and do it ourselves, which becomes the bigger part. I mean, we get busy. I get busy. I get busy with a lot of different projects, a lot of things going on, and sometimes certain things get less thought than others. And sometimes that's watering certain things, especially when you got some of these containers and elevated raised beds, which are basically big containers, on our patios. We've got to make sure that those are staying hydrated throughout the hottest parts of the summer. We for one, you don't want them drying out, because of course that's going to be really a big problem, a big issue for the plants, their health, their stability, and an ability to grow nice and strong and produce lots of great food for us. So making sure that they don't dry out is really, really important. One other thing too is, if you let, especially in containers and container gardening, and like I said, we've got these larger elevated raised beds on our patio. And if any of that stuff dries out or starts to get dry to a certain point, all of that soil then becomes hydrophobic and has a hard time taking on water again. And so it becomes a whole issue with that. Basically, again, to a lot of bottom watering is really great. So I try to have trays and that sort of stuff to allow water to kind of soak up all the time and constantly be wicking into my soils. But if we don't have those sort of situations set up, those could dry out, and it could be the hardest thing to try to get those soil blocks at that point to start taking on water. So that can be a big issue too. So I mean, having irrigation systems for small spaces, gardens, is really important, especially if you're living in warmer areas. You got more northern climates, a little shorter growing seasons. You're not going to have as hot of summers for prolonged periods of time. But you're still going to have issues with warm weather at certain points, and those are things that you're going to want to make sure that you're doing your that's why I always and I'm kind of glad it became one of those more popular videos that we have for our channel, is our 5-gallon earth wicking buckets that we have and we use throughout our gardens. Because that's another kind of like, it's like having a tray that's kind of full of water, but instead of it sitting in water, it's just pulling up water from down below in a reservoir. So I really like those for that factor, because then I don't have to necessarily be worried about those containers on a daily basis. I fill up those reservoirs, and every 2-3 days, during the hottest part of the summer, and they're constantly keeping our root systems with enough moisture, as they can continually pull that up. And so that's a good thing. So even if you got to just use some trays for other type of containers that have holes on the bottom that you can fill up with water during those hot times, to make sure that it's just drinking up as much water as that they need. Because as they dry out, it'll pull it up. So as it's drying out, it'll pull it up. So those are good ways to deal with containers. But if you're dealing with, like, larger garden beds, raised beds, the elevated beds that we have, I like to have a good irrigation system set up, and it's been really helpful for those spaces. I need to expand those timers and maybe some soaker hoses and things like that into some of my bigger spaces, and in-ground spaces that we have in certain places. But especially as we move up onto the rooftop, we'll definitely have to have an irrigation water system set up for that, because that's going up and down and up and down in order to water. And I remember those days when I was doing that before, up on the rooftop. So as I planned that out, and as I worked to strategize, figuring out how to utilize that space again, that's going to be a big important part of that as well too, is making sure that we've got a good irrigation, automatic irrigation system set up, so that we can get water up there throughout the day, especially during those warm days. And then that's also going to be a big space where we're utilizing this space. This could be a space as we will talk about as we move into that sort of thing, but it could be a space for certain people that have a place but not much, similar to what we have. You've only got small amount of space, but you've got this flat rooftop for a garage or carport or whatever. You can get some containers up there and utilize that space. It's full sun, which is great throughout most of the year. But again, there's that certain point in time during any summertime, really, where it just gets to be really hot, really intense, and that's when you want to kind of break out some shade cloth. And I want to be able to figure out some ways that we can set up a kind of shade cloth kind of structure that we can just put out real quick over, for us will be a few weeks period of time, but for some people it might just be a few days at a time. But when we get that really intense heat, mostly we'll grow up on that rooftop like we did before, be like peppers, maybe some tomatoes, just real warm weather crop type of stuff that we would try to grow in that space. But even all of that sort of stuff really, only likes to or can handle so much intense heat and light. So, it's really great to be able to, in some spaces where you just don't have the types of trees or anything getting in the way to kind of create any shade throughout the day, you want to create some sort of shade that those plants can take advantage of and get some relief. All right. See, and then says, I got a rainbird starter kit for irrigation and am looking for shade cloth on Amazon. Yes, I do have a shade cloth. I'm going to probably get another one or two, depending on this sort of system that I'm going to set up for that rooftop system, and then also something I'm going to try to figure out. I'm just not sure how how to work it out yet, but we maybe something set up for some tomatoes that we have that we want to grow and kind of maybe just get some of that intensity down a little bit. But I used the one that I have is 40% shade cloth, and that seems to give a really good shade. And maybe a little less percentage. I think it's less, yeah, less percentage if you're in less intense sun. Yeah, and this Jay was actually responding there. That's kind of goes to the point there that he got a, which is great finding some shade cloth at clearance. Always keep an eye out for those clearance deals. Always shop off season to see what types of things that they're putting on sale. But again, he's talking about shade cloth is rarely needed so far north in his region, and yeah, like I said, you get more further north. There's going to be times during the summer where it's going to get nice and hot and warm, but probably not as hot as it's going to be in more southern regions, which can, really put some heat and sun pressure on a plant. And when you get up so far north, that's going to be such a small issue. Like I said, you might get a day or two where it's going to hit 100 degrees or something, but that's it's not for me. That's going to be half my summer. So, all right, all right. Yeah, so that's kind of what we've been up to this week. Um, really, just kind of trying to catch up with some things. Working on booking and getting people lined up for this coming year's shows that we're working on and setting up, hoping to get the whole grand idea put together just right. So there's a lot of different little parts and pieces that need to come together, and getting a lot of the people that we're looking to get onto the show. So lots of emailing and a lot of communications going on with different people who Again, too, we got some really great, even bigger guests as far as, um, you know, well, I guess we'd have to say YouTube channels. We got some really good um, uh, YouTube gardeners coming to join with us this season, this year, for some conversations. I'm really excited about those. We've been talking about the one for sure that I'm the most excited about. I think right now, actually, the most nervous about when it comes down to it is getting to talk with Mark from Self Sufficient Me. He'll be on the show later on in the year, and that's going to be really fun and really exciting and really cool because Mark is going to join with us live and live from Australia. So that means he's going to be getting up nice and early in the morning for us. I believe our show starts 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on the West Coast, the Pacific Coast here in the States. But for Mark, that is, I believe, 5 a.m. In his time in Australia the next day. So it's Saturday morning for us, and he'll probably be on the show. The way the format for the show will be this next year, he'll probably be getting on with us about 45 minutes. So he'll be joining with us about 5:45 a.m. the next day for him in Australia, and so that's going to be kind of a fun conversation. We'll have him here live, which will be really awesome for viewers and everybody to be able to tune into and to be able to talk with him, ask him some questions. And as you can tell and see here, with our channel, I mean, hopefully, we'll be building our audience, and by the time we get him on here, he'll have put out some posts to let everybody know. So we should have a really vibrant show that day, but it's still not going to be anything like what he would have to have on his channel. We've talked about in the past here he's got well over 2 million subscribers on his channel. If he was to come on live like this, the comment section would be, you wouldn't be able to read comments and be able to really do much with that as far as interacting with the audience. So it should be kind of fun for him to come to kind of a smaller space and to be able to talk and interact with everybody and really give a lot of our viewers and people who follow along with our channel and our show a real great opportunity to talk to someone that you wouldn't normally get an opportunity to have an interview with, and to kind of really dig into his garden story, to be able to ask some questions that you might have or you've thought of if you've watched his channel and his show. And that's really, I think, the real great thing about what we're doing here with our show and our channel. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and I'm trying to catch up with the whole podcast end of what it was, just extra work that I having to put the whole package together too. But we're getting that all caught up too. So we'll be back to podcasting on a regular basis as well too. And that just is really the benefit, like all of our replay viewers who get to watch our show on replay, is that ability to watch it or listen to it whenever you want to, or with podcast, even more so wherever you are really. You can just pop those podcasts on and listen to the audio. And but the ability to have this live show, to be able to have a live audience, though, I think is the really best awesome thing about what this show is about. What we're able to do with bringing on all of these really great guests is to have that live ability to do the show. Because again, with a lot of the podcasts and those sort of things that are out there, is that they're recorded ahead of time, and it's really only just an interaction between me, the host, and the guest. And so a great opportunity with all the live ability we have here. And believe me, it's some work to book and to bring these folks on to the show at these certain times and to have them here live with us. Not everybody can we do that with either, though, too. So there are sometimes we do have to have a pre-recorded interview just to get certain guests, and there will be a few of those this year as well too. But for the most part, having and the ability to have a guest here live with us is really just a great benefit to all of you who join with us live each Saturday morning here, to be able to to be able to ask questions, to be able to interact with us and be a part of the conversation. And so that's just, I think, one of the great things about this whole show and what we're able to do, and especially with the guests that we're able to bring on and have these discussions and talk about things with people in ways that you're not going to get, say you follow or you watch their videos, for some of the ones who come on the show from YouTube and put out videos and video content. You don't get that type of interaction with them through their videos, so you get a chance to see a different side of them and learn a little bit more about them personally through the kind of fun interviews that we have here. So I think that's just again, one of the great things that we've accomplished with this show. Again, we could use definitely more more a bigger audience, as what we're talking about this year is our goal, to really get this show out, share it with everybody, and make sure that we're getting the word out and letting people know that we're talking to some really awesome people, and you're going to want to be here live for some of these interviews and get a chance to interact with and like I said, to be able to ask questions and discuss things with some of these just really awesome gardeners who are out there sharing on their own platforms, but we're lucky enough to get them here to be able to, like I said, get just a different side of them, get it, dig in just a little bit deeper with their garden stories and to just really have some really fun conversations. So I'm looking forward to a lot of the things that we've got planned. um, so that's really what I've been doing a lot of this week, even more so this week, doubling down on some emails and try, some people, and it's hard to try to, for some people who have, that I'm like, I want to get this person on as a guest. Some people you can't really get a hold of. So they're just, so you have to try to find all these different ways. So, what's the right email address for one? Because some of the email addresses you find everywhere are, you know, especially through YouTube, because YouTube, you can get email addresses on an about page. A lot of those are older addresses that they don't use anymore, that sort of stuff. So it can be a real kind of chase sometimes in order to get some of the people on to the show. One of our guests, I was lucky enough to have a connection. So, use a connection with someone in order to get a hold of another person. That's actually kind of working in a couple of different directions for a couple of the different ideas that I have for some of our shows coming up. So it's just being able to do all that sort of stuff, but it takes time. It takes a little bit of work and some finessing when it comes down to it. And at some point, some real kind of talking some people into certain things, because one of the things that we start to deal with when we start booking and getting certain dates filled up is that now we're only got a select couple of dates that we got to fill out, right? So now I want to try to get somebody to be on for those ones, but that's a specific date. Whereas when you're trying to get someone on a show, you're really trying to throw them an opening, of several different ideas, this date or that date, and that way something will work out. But if you're only throwing them like a date or two that could possibly work out, then that becomes the tough to do. So you got to talk some people into it, so but when it comes down to it, it really is kind of another fun part of this whole show, and this whole idea is, a lot of that background interaction that I get with a lot of the guests that you see on the show. So it's always kind of fun. Sometimes can be kind of frustrating though too, like I said, when we're just trying to get a couple of dates taken care of. That was an issue in a couple of parts of last season, and I think I've kind of refined it just a little bit over the last year, and hopefully we've got a better system in place and working right now. We'll see more so as we start moving down the road this year, but that was definitely needed. So yeah, it can be fun, but at the same time, it's really great to even no matter what the effort is, really ultimately, in order to get some of the folks that we have on our show on, it's just really ultimately rewarding to be able to not for one just to have that conversation for myself, but also, like I said, to be able to bring that conversation to all of you, to bring all of you along with these sort of discussions, and then also you having the ability, being here live with us, to be able to ask questions and be a part of the conversation as well too. So that's just really, really great. Let's see. Oh, looks like we've got Nancy joining with us here. Hi, everyone. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you here. Late but here. I learned to have deeper mulch, no time to weed. That's a great idea too. Yes, exactly. Weeding can be tough, and for your spaces there in your garden, mulch them up, and make sure that you're not giving those weeds any sunlight or any chance to pop up. It seems to be a problem for me. I never mulch enough myself either. It's something I've got to get better on in my garden spaces for sure. So I definitely could use that time that I spend, that extra time I spend weeding, which I wouldn't have to do if I wasn't mulching. Also, again, too, back to watering as well, as we were talking about drip irrigation and all of that, is that, when you're having to be out there and water, especially during those hot times of the summer, sometimes a couple times a day to make sure everything's not drying out, it really, really, you can start to feel and see that benefit of a timer drip irrigation system put on even some of your spaces. With that back patio space and the back alleyway space, when it's all set up to a timer and I don't have to deal and worry about that, and I just worry about a couple of other spaces, I notice that time that I'm saving, and it definitely could be used doing other things. Like I said, I got a lot of stuff going on. As much time saving things I can implement in my garden, the better. And mulching is just another one of those. As Nancy says, there is that, the deeper the mulch, the less weeding you're going to have. And again, that becomes time you save in the garden. I don't want to, be wasting too much time either myself. Let's see here. Jay's mentioned here before as well too. I learned to prepare the garden for being abandoned due to health issues, tidy mulch, dense planting, plants needing minimal water, etc. Yeah, yeah. So, and again, too, health issues or vacations, just all sorts of other sort of things that we all could be dealing with, and needing to step away or not spend as much time in there. There are things, again, too, that we can implement and do in order to minimize the time or even set up things. And again, extended periods of time for certain spaces, you're just, you got to do what you have to do as well too, as I got to talk somebody into stopping by and uh, making sure that everything's getting watered, or checking on our drip systems if it, just to be sure, because those, even though you have timer drip system, that doesn't mean you don't have to at least walk around at least once a day and make sure everything's going good, that something hasn't popped off, or is, that sort of thing, which can happen. It always seems to happen when you're not looking or not paying attention. So it's good to pay attention most of the time and just kind of have an eye on those sort of things. But for the most part, they do all the work on its own. So when you can have those sort of things set up, and doing the work for you, and then that means the more you can step back away from your garden. Okay. Yep, yep, yep. Oh, too much dead space there. Sorry. Yeah, that's another thing about doing the live show and eh, reading through comments though at the same time. Don't want to leave too much dead air space here for you, but yeah, lots of that sort of stuff is deep mulch, irrigation, uh, and again too another important thing too again is like talk about with the shade cloth things I've got to work on. I've got to make sure I'm implementing even better in my gardens to save myself some time. And we've talked about some really great things. In fact, um, that's a big part of some of the things that I've actually learned myself over this last couple of seasons is the time management is something that I have to work better at, and we've already jumped into some great subjects so far talking about that sort of thing because I've got a lot of things going on, and I need to make sure that all of my garden spaces are being taken care of, and I'm growing everything the best that I could possibly can, and putting the best effort I can into each of these plants and my different spaces and all of that. That I need to be making sure that I'm doing certain things in order to make sure that I can keep a better eye on everything, you know, and that is by, time management and saving time on chores that just take up a big chunk of time, by implementing things, and again too, weeding takes a ton of time, especially when you're growing in the alleyway garden spaces that I grow in. Is I'm constantly battling weeds, I'm constantly dealing with those weeds. Right now we built that front yard garden space over at my friend's place, and these are big 20-foot by 40-foot garden plots on a big corner lot. We've got two of these plots. They're just great growing spaces, just really awesome. But that's the big issue right there is weeds, and we are discussing right now things that we can implement and start doing to ensure that we are not having to spend too much time on weeding altogether. And again, it gets to be a certain point of the year where if we're not out there on a consistent basis of time, weeds are starting to catch on all over the place throughout this space, and it just starts to look overgrown. And at that point, just it be now more things start to grow because you look at it and just you start to give up almost, because it becomes such a big chore, so in order to relieve us of that sort of stress, even too, of looking at the garden space and having those moments of wanting to give up because it's just so much work and all of that. We want to get out there and implement, some maybe deeper mulching situations. Thinking of maybe some wood chips would be really great, especially for, walkway spaces. And then, maybe some other types of mulching for the actual growing spaces, not just for weeding though too, is also to be able to hold and retain a lot of the watering that we're doing. That's been one of the big issues for us as well, is that we're watering the garden a couple of times a day during that hottest part of the year, but we could cut down on the amount of water that we really need to put onto that space by um, putting better mulches and utilizing those sort of things in order to really ensure that all of the water that makes it down to the soil level is captured there at that level and maintains that sort of moisture level all the time, instead of having you know soil at the top level constantly drying out and being watered and drying out and being watered. We can keep and maintain a good moisture level in our soil, because that becomes a big important part, especially in that garden space, that drying out of everything that happens is not helping us build those build those soil microorganisms that we really need and are really important for our garden. And again, too, though, there are other things that come along with it. But if you have a really, as far as like I would say, like pests and things that that could gather and all of that sort of thing. But really, ultimately, with a good, healthy situation, most of those things balance themselves out. So whatever you have in your garden, as long as it's not necessarily destroying things, can be somewhat healthy too. We just don't want excesses of being overran by certain pests. Nancy says, yeah, mulch in the paths. Jay also keeps you from slipping in the mud after a rain. I gave the neighbors a good laugh once. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've done that around here several times, one way or another. But yeah, definitely, that's making sure that we're not creating mud situations as well too. It's a really good idea. So we might be looking to maybe getting a chip drop or something like that, and think about adding some wood chips or something. Oh, Darthek says, yesterday I saw a honeybee, so the pollinators are waking up for spring. Vancouver Island. Awesome. Yeah. 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 I've been seeing some bees around because they're out in my area right now because most all of my spring flowers are already starting to pop up and starting to show themselves. We've got crocuses. I've got um, some little actual small lilies. Is this one variety that have popped up? We've got daffodils I see around that have been popping up, and the flowers have been coming out already. The tulips are already really starting to come out. We should be seeing flower stalks popping up anytime now. But this started actually in the last week of January, a few weeks back, that these flowers started popping up. So, again, too, once you start seeing all them flowers and all of that, that means the weather's been warm enough for them. So it's warm enough for all of those bees and pollinators and all of that to start flying around and starting to get some of that food as it's becoming available. So yeah, definitely exciting to see the bees flying around because things are waking up. And that's really a great part of the year, and a great time of year, of course, is everything is waking up, which again, though, too, is that time of year too when as things are waking up, I got to wake up too, which means I got to get outside, I got to get some things done. There's lots of chores, lots of things to do in order to get our garden spaces ready, and then also to get them growing as well. But yeah, that's really great, really awesome. So yeah, just getting things ready. Like I said, check out our video that we put out this week on getting our peppers started. I talked about the different varieties of peppers that we're growing. I think we're growing like 25 varieties of peppers, and just actually got a few new varieties that I was short on, that I just which I should have went through my seeds just a little bit earlier than right as I was getting ready to plant them. It was just my idea coming out of last year was like, well, I got plenty of seeds. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to order any newer varieties or anything. I'm going to just kind of work through some of the varieties I already have, a couple that I haven't grown yet, and had the opportunity to grow yet. So instead of getting newer ones, let's try some of those, and had plenty of seed left over from varieties that I grow anyways. And so I didn't think about it. I was just like, I'm gonna pull them out. I'm just gonna start planting seeds. And then I discovered two of the varieties that I've really fallen in love with this last couple of seasons: the Etuda and Lesia varieties you can get from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. The Etuda is just this really thick walled, juicy, kind of orange bell pepper, and it's really delicious. It's got a really fruity, delicious flavor to it. So that one was definitely, when I grew that and got to taste that the first time, I was like, oh, this is definitely something we're going to be keeping around. And then the Lesia is like this little red heart shaped pod, sweet pepper. So it's kind of like a bell, but instead of the flat, nubby bottom, it comes to a kind of a pointy heart shape. And it's, really, again, thick and juicy, and this deep red color that's just really awesome. So it kind of looks like a little heart in a way. And those are just really awesome. So those are ones that definitely want to make sure were a mainstay in my garden. But found out as I was getting ready to plant all the seeds and everything that I didn't have any, and so I had to order some quickly. And luckily, the seeds came quick enough. I've got them already planted out and added. And added to everything just last night. So that's, again, we're going to have some really great, delicious varieties. Let's see what some other ones. I grow this one that I've been growing, but I'm using actually some older seed from back when I just over the last couple of years with the seed that I had, and I had saved from before. Just haven't quite thought the plants were looking like they were before, so I dug back to some of the older seed for this variety, and so I planted a bunch of that seed to hopefully get a few good plants out of that, so that maybe I can go back and kind of get some of the older genes and maybe get some of those uh, um, really good pods like I grew several years ago. So we'll see about that. Those ones there, and I kind of talked about it a little bit in the video, and I'll touch on that a little bit right now. Is that because I didn't mention and talk about it there as much? I did mention the fact that I don't necessarily save seeds from my pepper varieties that I grow. I grow new seed each year. I did try saving seeds from years ago. What ended up happening was I ended up getting a lot of plants that weren't growing what I was looking for, what I was anticipating on growing, because I wanted, saving seeds. I wanted to grow that variety. The problem with that is that I grow all of these peppers in the small spaces and together and close. Like we have our big wood box that holds 12 of our earth wicking buckets. So we've got 12 of them all together, and I grow 12 varieties of peppers. Well, I think last year was 6 different ones. We grew 2 plants of each in there. So there were 6 different varieties right there. But again, previous years, 12 different varieties. On the patio, I've got a whole, we've got another maybe 10 different varieties growing there. Up on the rooftop, we'll have a bunch of different varieties that'll be grown closer together. And if I'm saving those seeds, because peppers are just so easily crossed, I mean, they're just so easily crossed. And we just talked about pollinators and bees buzzing around. And when they start buzzing around in your plants, and they were going from plant to plant to plant to plant to plant, collecting all of that awesome pollen, they're also leaving and depositing pollen into other ones everywhere. And they're crossing all of these different peppers. And that's kind of what I found with a lot of seed that I saved in years past. Was I was getting just a lot of plants that weren't right. In fact, I did do a video once where I ate one of the only peppers I've eaten on camera, because it's just not, I'm not really into really hot peppers more than growing them or that sort of thing. But I did eat one of these mystery peppers that I grew from plants that crossed with each other, but came up as volunteer plants. So I had this volunteer plant that came up out of one of my containers, and so I grew it out, and it grew this kind of interesting looking, almost kind of a purple cream pod. So I thought, it was interesting from the look of the pod, but definitely didn't look like anything I'd grown before. And so we gave that a good taste test, and it ended up, I wouldn't say quite as hot as a habanero, but it was probably hot. It was definitely hotter than like serranos and that sort of thing. I would say maybe half a habanero is what it was. So maybe about 100,000, 200,000 Scoville, maybe. It was a scorcher for sure, but it wasn't as hot as some of the habaneros. But I ate that on camera, one of the only peppers I've actually eaten on camera myself. But again, we grew that out, and I knew, it was a volunteer. I knew that, I wasn't expecting anything, certain from any of those plants. But when you save seeds, you want that plant that you're saving it from to grow again the next season, and that can be a disappointment if you're taking the time. Especially, we're starting all the way here, in February. Some people are getting started at the end of December, early January with their peppers. To get started that early and grow a plant all the way out into spring, to find it start putting out pods and things that you don't weren't what you were looking for, or were crossed or something. It can be interesting, if you're taking it in that sort of stride, but also really can be just disappointing ultimately. So that's why I grow from fresh seed each year, or if I could buy a seed packet, I'm only planting so much of that. I'll, save, some seed packets I can use for a couple of years, um, so that was the case with these Etuda and Lesia, is that I went through the seed that I bought a couple seasons ago, and was ran out of it. But because I'm not saving seeds, or what I could do when it comes to, as I was mentioning with this Dostis Landis, that I'm trying this older seed I got, is isolate these plants and keep them well away from all of the other plants. And then not only that, I can go and do even a further isolation. And you can buy these little covers that some growers use, that you could just cover the actual pods and the flowers, and you can do some hand pollination. So you're making sure that you're getting a pollinated flower, and pollinating from that specific variety, so that you're not getting any crosses or anything. You're ensuring it's pollinated, and then you're cutting it off and isolating it from any of the other pollinators coming and visiting at any point after that, and infecting it with another variety or something like that. So I could go through and isolate them. I might try that with this Dostis Landis variety, and this other variety that I grew for years, that called Super Heavyweight. I got those from, I believe I got those from, I got those from a guy named Brandon years ago. And but just huge, we're talking about massive bell peppers, massive, sweet, delicious bell peppers. And again, too, been noticing that the bells have been getting a little bit smaller. And again, I don't know if it's necessarily the genetics of the seed or not. It could be, some of the growing issues, or different things that come from the gardener, right? And my skill, my own skill, right, could be at issue. But ultimately, what I thought I would do, again, similar with those, is go back to some of the older seed that I have and I had saved from before, and plant out a bunch of those and see how that works, and hopefully maybe isolate some of these, so that I can save some of that seed if I get some really good pods, and be able to save seed, and be able to grow those again on into the future. So again, maybe that's just something when it comes to especially those varieties. I like trying new things each year. Some things, we're going to grow for a few years, and some things I want to grow almost every year. And for those things that almost want to grow every year, I might have to start implementing more of an isolation strategy in order to save seeds and ensure that I've got seeds to carry on into future gardens. But yeah, that's kind of the story behind all of that. Is just it's saving seed can be just a little bit of extra work when it comes to peppers because they cross so easily. Same with I would say similar with like squash varieties and things like that too. That's something that I found out with saving some seed with squash varieties over some years, was that you come up with some funky looking things the next year because they really kind of cross with each other pretty easily. All right. Here in the next couple of weeks, though, too, I will start going through and growing and starting up all of my tomatoes and my tomato varieties, because my strategy this year is to get them started nice and early and be able to pot them up and get them grown nice and big before I get them outdoors. I usually only get them so big before I've been putting them outdoors, but I'm going to get them potted up into like gallon size containers indoors under our light system, and ensure that I've got some really good sized plants by the time I go to put them out in early spring. And I mean early spring too. I'm gonna go out, maybe just right after April, maybe right at the very first week of April, even though there's chance of frost in my area because we haven't reached our last frost date yet. I'm gonna do and take some strategies in order to protect them from frost on those nights that might happen on in the days after that, and those are only going to be a few nights. That'll possibly happen. I know it'll possibly happen because it usually does every year. It's usually why I make sure I wait until after I get that last frost before I put them out. But I'm losing some weeks of actual growth over just a night or two of issues that I could actually like I said, maybe put some row cover or something over them. Do some simple things in order to protect against what will just ultimately be a few hours of frost. And even with just some basic protection for the tomato plants should do them all right, even if there is a little bit of frost burn that still possibly happens on most uh, on the tomato plants. For the most part, those things will just, they're indeterminates. They're going to grow all new growth by the time we start getting to the point of fruits and all that sort of stuff. But my strategy has got to be to get these plants nice and big and strong early in the season so that they start producing and they start getting the strength that they need for when the hotter part of the season hits. And that way they'll already be kind of well on their way. And we might hopefully see just a shorter period of dormancy during that hot period of the summertime. That's the strategy this year. I've got a couple of other different varieties. Adam, who I met up with a couple of weeks ago here, um, he gave me some seeds of a variety that he got from Gardner Scott, and that he's grown out a couple of seasons already, and he says they do really well during the warm part of the season right here in the valley. So I know he's just down the road. He's got success with them. So I'm really looking forward to growing that variety as well. But that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure just, in order to hopefully get some good tomato growth this year, I want to grow these varieties. I want to continue growing some other varieties that I've got and I really enjoy that used to grow really well. So again, like I said, we're just going to put in the extra work it's going to take to protect them during those little few hours, couple of days that I'll possibly have some frost issues after April. But what I'm going to gain out of that is already 4 weeks or so. I'm going to go about 4 weeks early, and hopefully gain that time of root growth, stem growth, because again, I'm going to grow these plants indoors. I'm going to get them hopefully to a good size. I don't want them too big. I don't want them stretching. I'm going to try to keep them to a nice compact size, but big enough. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bury them nice and deep as well. I'm going to keep burying them deep each time I pot them up. But when we get them down ultimately into the garden space, we're going to, get them nice and deep in there already. Just leave a good, maybe 6 inches maybe on the top to start growing. But that, all of that will grow some big roots and great root systems. And then that top part of the plant is going to get 4 weeks of being able to grow and get a good head start on the season. And hopefully this strategy is going to pay off, and we're going to get a lot of great varieties of tomatoes this year too, because I'd love to do what I did a couple of times in some of the first couple of seasons that we were doing videos. And I used to do all the time before I even made videos, when I was growing all these awesome tomatoes every year. Was get to do all these really great tomato tests and taste tests and all of that sort of stuff. But it's great to be able to grow a nice wide variety of tomato varieties, and then be able to do a little taste test video for all of you to try out our different varieties. So hopefully we're going to be able to do that this year with this strategy. Again, I just got to put in that extra work. A lot of the things that the things that we need is just sometimes a little bit of extra work right up front in order to have big payoffs in the long run. So a little extra work mulching your garden spaces, and the payoff is not all that weeding down the road. The time spent and the extra effort it takes to set up a irrigation system or some sort of way of making sure that your plants are getting watered in your spaces through a timer and all of that sort of stuff. Extra effort up front to get some big payoff down the road, as you're saving all that time, and you're keeping things, and your plants are actually thriving even more with that consistent watering. So again, these things that we can do, and that I myself have got to get on and do this year, and just put in that just a little extra effort to hopefully have these really big payoffs when it comes down to it. All right. Kind of a quiet week this week, it feels like. Everybody's a little quiet this week. So if you're here with us right now and you haven't yet already, hit that like button for one. I love to see it when we're all clicking and hitting that like button and helping us, all that sort of stuff. And again, too, as I mentioned, go check out our other videos, click those like buttons, get into the comments section. The more interaction with our different content, the more it'll be seen by newer viewers through the whole YouTube algorithm and all of that. So everybody, anything you can do to help us build up what we got going on here be just awesome, and I really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't already and you are here with us live right now, jump into our comment section too as well. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you got growing on. If you got any questions or anything that you want to discuss, let me know there, as we got just a few more minutes here of the show left over. And not too sure what else I've got really going on other than getting out this next week and starting to do a lot of the outdoor chores. That's really what a lot of everything I've been doing has been based indoors so far. I've been just doing a lot of the preparation for the season, all that sort of stuff, planning, lots of basic office work, like I was talking about, emailing, doing all that sort of stuff. But gonna have to put on the garden gloves and the work gloves and all that sort of stuff and get out. As like I was telling you too before, is I've got tulips popping up, which is kind of a little early for us. We got a bunch of other things popping up in places that I need to get out and I need to clean up and I need to do some weeding. I got to do some more organizing, some cleaning. Um, a lot of the outdoor stuff throughout the coldest part of the winter season. When I take my break from doing all of the outdoor gardening stuff, it just, everything's left out there. It starts overgrowing. It just leaves me a bunch of things that I've got to do when it gets this time of year. So I got a lot of catching up to getting the garden spaces right where I want them to be in the next couple of weeks, so that we can really start getting growing. Not only that, we got to get out there and assess what I've got growing on right now. I know there's probably a bunch of lettuce and different things growing out there. I saw some green onion in our side bed is kind of growing crazy there that I didn't notice before too. So I've got a bunch of green onion out there. I know I got some lettuce out there. We've got a bunch of spinach over at the plots over at my friend's place. Um, in fact, I need to get out and I need to take a video clip too. Next time I'm over there, I'm probably going to head over here too, actually, in just a little bit. But I got to take a little video clip of the garlic that's coming up too. We've got a massive, massive bed of garlic growing over there this year. We did maybe, I think we ended up with about a hundred and some uh, heads of garlic that we grew last season out of one of the other plots. But this year we took we took that and we multiplied it. And this year I squeezed in probably, I think, almost 300 heads of garlic in it's kind of almost like a double row that runs down the center of one of the plots. So it's just packed full of garlic, and they're all looking awesome and growing and looking great so far. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I need to get a little clip of that to kind of, uh, keep some clips of it as it's growing throughout the season there. And, but yeah, lots of things that are already growing on out there I need to catch up with and get some things and, uh, and do all of that sort of stuff. Darth mentions that he's got to put together some metal raised beds and fill them with soil. Yeah, see, and again, too, so that takes me back to talking about the possibility of doing what we can do in the front yard space. I want to do just some basic, simple, because again, too, what I like to do is show with videos and the sort of things that I've been doing in my gardening is making things as simple and inexpensive as possible. So that'll be a lot of what I want to do with the main part of the space that we do outdoors. But I want to also have some space in there where we can do some of those, like, which I think you're kind of mentioning there too, is either like the Vigo or Birdie's type of beds, where they're kind of larger metal beds. You can even get the already like one piece metal kind of big large trough type bed things you can get at different farm supply stores and things like that too. So I've been thinking about some things like that we can implement and show, as well as the in-ground raised simple type of raised bed setup that we want to put in there as well. But that's going to be something. And then also show kind of what we also did with one of our beds that we've got, which is actually, you can't tell, but the bed's actually just right on the other side of this wall here. That's why I kind of point. I just have this, I'm inside here, something on my point. But what am I pointing to? On the other side of that wall is the alleyway, and one of our beds that we got, and that one I filled with logs and wood chips and different things to do a hugiculture type of setup for that. And just a great way to fill in a larger, deeper type of bed that you would get if you've got one of those, Vigo or Birdies type metal bed setups, because they're pretty deep, and really a good, and it's really a good idea, especially with those deep ones, to kind of set up, large chunks of wood and logs and different things if you can, in order to do type of a hugelkultur thing, because not only does it really save some space, but it really starts to build all of that kind of like that micro life that you want in that soil that you're developing, up there at the top, in the top layers and all of that. A lot of those fungi and organisms and things, they just start building life and all that sort of stuff, and those roots are coming down and just taking and reaping the benefit from all of that sort of stuff. So not only is it a great way to fill the bed and save some money on the soil that you're putting in there, but it's really going to really kick up the soil life that you have. And he mentions that yes, it's 2 Vigos that he's got. Yep. Yeah, so I would love to be able to set up at least a little bit of space where we can have kind of just a couple of different things to show people that you can use in kind of your garden and yard spaces and stuff, as well as just a simple raised bed type of setup that you can do with the front yard. And then hopefully, at least in my vision, it's going to be a really great thing out there, and I can't wait to see. Yes, he says that my garlic is fine, though they have gone through teens and temps, getting down nice and cold, huh? That's all right. That's all right. That garlic can handle it. In fact, that garlic is inside that soil during that time when it's at the most coldest, and it's literally looking up and it's saying, "Is that all you got? Is that all you got?" Right. That's awesome. Yep, yep. So yeah, that would be fun too. So like I said, for our outdoor front space for the front yard, again, I'm looking and pointing in these directions here. But yeah, front yard's this way. Right behind me is the alleyway. But for our front yard, that would be really great, is to get some of those Vigo or Birdies types beds. Again, too, not something I would necessarily use or buy myself, but they are things that are available to folks out there. As we see, Darth is talking about how he's got some already, so these are things that people are using and that sort of thing. So it'd be great to have them here, do some videos, show people how we would use them, how we would utilize them in our garden and that sort of thing. So hopefully, maybe there'll be an opportunity for us as a show to develop a relationship with Birdies or Vigo, and maybe put in some of those in our yard and all of that as well. In fact, one of the big Birdies people is Mark from Self Sufficient Me, who's going to be on the show in a few months, and maybe that's something I'll talk about with him. In fact, Kevin Espiritu as well is the U.S. distributor for them. So maybe we'll do some talking and seeing about what we can do as far as that goes. Get some in our garden space. Let's see here. Oh, Grow Out of the Box is joining up with us here, jumping in the comment section. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining in with us. Hello and hello all. Yes, it's great to have you here with us today. And we're just kind of having a mellow day here, it looks like. And just talking about a few things that we've got growing on. We were talking just a little bit earlier about some of the things that we learned in our last year and some of the different things that we're going to do this year with that knowledge. And I talked a little bit about about how I need to do better time management, and that really only entails doing some work up front. You know, whether it's like we were talking about, setting up the drip irrigation timer system a little bit better to save my time during watering, the watering time of year that takes up a lot of my time, or doing a better job of mulching a lot of my garden spaces so that I don't have to weed so much, and and different things like that too. And also having to utilize some shade cloth and some things in order to um, ensure that some of my plants I want to get started earlier can get a better start this year as well too. That's one of the some of the things that I really got figured out last year and are going to be implementing in my strategy for this year. Just kind of some just some kind of, we're just kind of talking and then kind of rolling off with, I think, with some of these things that for that are kind of on my mind this year and at this moment, because I'm trying to develop these strategies and really get them working right now. Grab the box mentions, yes, sir. My elephant garlic is about 5 inches up, but the roots are even deeper. Yes, 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 absolutely. I got some elephant garlic too. That mine are actually coming up out of the ground. I got them in just a little bit later than I got all of my rest of my garlic in, because it was kind of one of those last minute things. I was like, you know what, I want to grow it. I haven't for the last couple of seasons, so I went out and got some fresh organic stuff in order to get out into the garden. A little bit late, but they're popping up now. So I see that they're growing, and now that they're popping up, that definitely tells me that they are developing a good root system, and all of that's going on really great down below underneath the ground. And again, as we were mentioning just a moment ago there with Nancy's comment too, is that they love the cold season. That cold part of the season is a real important part of their whole development. So getting that really cold dormancy just really helps with the clove splitting and turning into the different new cloves that it'll end up developing into that bulb later on. So so yeah, it's great to see them growing out there. A lot of people, I see a lot of comments from first time garlic growers, a lot of questions, because they'll put the garlic in the ground, and then it'll start growing, and they'll see it coming up out of the ground, and we, just a few weeks after planting it back in the fall, and they're like, well, winter isn't even here yet, and it's growing out. How's it going to handle the cold and the freezes of the winter and all of that? And it's always, always just, have to assure a new gardener that that they're going to be just fine. They're going to actually love it. They want, in fact, they're looking forward to it, and really doesn't matter too much how much they grow up out of the ground. They'll, those greens can handle it. They'll do fine. It gets really, really cold, they might slump a little bit or whatever, but when it warms up, they'll be right back and doing just fine. But what's going on down below underneath the soil level is where all the real magic is happening during that time of year. And those bulbs and garlic are just loving what's happening. So again, I can't wait. It's one of my favorite things again too, because it's just one of those things. Again, you get some cloves, you separate some cloves from either stuff you've saved the year before, or you're getting some new fresh stuff organically. It's at one of your markets or something, and you're starting a new crop of garlic. But it's just, again, it's just one of those things that's so easy. I mean, I don't really do much of anything for garlic other than planting it in the ground. Again, we might do some weeding. Want to do some weeding around them or something like that, making and ensuring that they're not drying out in whatever space that we've got them planted in. Um, during as it starts moving towards summertime. But it's going to be early summer before we really get into the real prolonged heat of our summertime. We'll have already had them harvested. So basically, I mean, a lot of things that it's just so easy. Put them in the ground. In fact, one of the things I tell people too is if you have very limited space, there's all these other little spots around your place in your home or whatever you have that you can just stick them right in the ground and grow some garlic just anywhere almost, and just poke them around your landscape through if you got any sort of landscaping in your front yard area or anything. They'll grow pretty much almost anywhere. And again, you ain't got to do much at all for any of it. Yeah. Yep. And another great thing too is, and I talked a lot about this uh, um, earlier this last fall, was that one of the things about garlic is that not only is it easy, but it's one of those ones where you only need a little bit just to get started, and then next thing you know, you could have your own garlic farm, which I basically have now. We started, and I'm not even kidding. For those that may have heard this before, but if you haven't, I only started with two bulbs of garlic that Nancy sent me several seasons ago. Two bulbs of this really great German hardneck garlic, and I planted those out, saved the cloves from those two. And again, we're starting with, a hardneck. You're gonna get about 6 cloves. You get about 6 of them out of there. So I had 12 cloves that I started with, and then so that grew me 12 bulbs, and now that 12 is times 6. So I got nearly 100 the next year, right? And then after that, if I got 100, that's now 6. So the next year after that, I've got 600. And then, so by 4 years, I mean, you can literally be growing a huge garlic farm from just 2 bulbs of garlic. I mean, they just explode exponentially. But ultimately, if you just grow enough, you're able to save enough and get the best ones. Always save your biggest, fattest, juiciest looking cloves from whatever you harvest, and plant those ones into your garden. So one of the things about having plenty of garlic is lots of seed to choose from, so that you're growing your best bulbs each and every year. Yeah, and Jay just mentioned, actually, real quick here, he says, I freak out inexperienced gardeners to always save the best garlic for the next year garden and not eating it. Yeah, and that really, also too, we talked a little bit, and I think this last couple of weeks, or I think I know we mentioned a little bit about the tomatoes, and how I let them just fall off of the plant, and seed itself into the soil, so I get the volunteer plants the next year. But the ones I leave on the plant, similar to what we're talking about with the garlic, there is the biggest, juiciest, best looking ones, the most water inducing, mouth watering one on the plant, and I leave it there. I sacrifice my very best so that I have the very best plants growing. And, I'm getting good and delicious tomatoes, plenty of them throughout the whole plants. But, you get those big, juicy, just perfect looking ones. And those are the ones I'm going to either save the seed from, or I'm going to let them drop right onto the ground there. as I'll let them overripe and just fall off the plant right into the ground, do their thing naturally. But similar with garlic as well. Gonna get plenty of delicious garlic from all of the different cloves that we're getting out of those big juicy bulbs we're growing. But in order to get those big juicy bulbs, I've got to save those, just the best of the cloves, just the best ones. And again too, that it's those are the ones you think you want, for eating or to be consuming. But again, when it comes to seed, those are the ones you want for seed. We want to be growing the best parts of the genetics of anything that we're growing. So again, with those I'm getting stronger and better and more productive plants each and every year by allowing for those best fruits to leave their seed behind, or again harvesting the best seed possible from anything that I'm getting. Let's see here. And Jay also mentioned that there was some experiments, and I'm sure there's studies and that sort of thing as well too, that showed a sustainable, better result of saving the best for the garden. Yeah, and really, ultimately, I mean, it just makes sense, right? You got your biggest, best one that it's got the best of the genes of that whole plant and its variety and everything. That's where your seeds at. That's what you want to be saving. And it goes with really anything and everything if you're making a seed saving plan for something, my radishes. Radishes, I grow a French breakfast variety of radish, right? And a bunch of radishes. I want to grow a bunch of them. I plant a new seed, each week in order to kind of sustain some into the warm part of the season. But now, periodically, out of each of the batches that I'm seeding, I'm going to leave behind the best looking ones. I'm going to eat up all these other ones. I'm going to enjoy them. They're going to be just as delicious, but I'm leaving behind my best ones, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to let those go to seed. And I'm going to leave behind several of them because I want several of them to go to seed. Because one of the cool things about radishes is that there's another harvest of food off of them once you let them go to seed. So I let a few of them go to seed, they go up, and then I get tons of these little bean seed pods that are really delicious. They got a little light radish flavor to them. They're just really, really good. And so those make for a fun extra harvest out of this crop we're growing. But again, I'm using those best ones to grow that up there, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to harvest whatever I don't take from seed pods for the young seed pods. I'm going to leave left over to harvest for seed for the next batch of radishes that I grow, and that's going to give me the best of the genetics. I'm saving seeds from the best of those radishes. So that's something to be thinking about too when it comes to almost any crop or anything we're growing in our garden, is that it's the best of what we have that is going to give us the best seed. If you're going to save seed from lettuce, or you're going to do what I've experimented with, over the last couple of seasons, is just letting some go and drop seed and see what comes up. And each season I have some different varieties of lettuce that come up. But, if I got a really nice looking head of lettuce and, or, just a nice plant growing in there, and I'm thinking about any of them going to seed, that's probably going to be the one I'm going to want to leave in there, and I want to let it go to seed and produce the seed, because I know that that seed came from one of the best, strongest plants that I had in the garden. So again, it really just goes with everything. Save the best you have for seed. Growing out of the box says elephant garlic give you the corms. Planted 500 corms this year. The little, yeah, what you're talking about are the little boobles, these little bubles, seed bugles. Yeah, and again too, I have, and in fact, I've got I think a few of them still growing right now from last year. So we're going to try to be in our second year. So hopefully, I'll have some to show um, on some video later on this year. But yeah, those little things are going to take 2-3 years to start producing. But yeah, they're fun to grow and or what I did is I let a bunch of them just fall in this space because I collected a bunch and I set them, just had them sitting there and they just dropped a bunch in this space. And I had a ton of them growing up out of this pot. And so they really just grew up and I just used them as like some greens because I wasn't going to be growing all the plants out or anything. And I didn't have the space or use for them, but they grew and just kind of volunteered and grew up. And I had them, they were growing like a whole bunch of green onions. Like I've got just in the alleyway right back here. I got a bunch of green onion that's growing. So it was growing up just like a bunch of green onion. And I got that from all of those corms. So again, too, that could be a great way to utilize those as kind of like a secondary crop or something that isn't necessarily what you would grow them out for, is because you get a bunch of those corms if you're letting them produce and do that and grow out that way, and they'll produce a bunch of them. And if you can get a bunch of those and you just grow them like almost like a outdoor microgreen in a way, and just let them produce all those little garlic shoots and cut them out and use them like a green onion, but instead you kind of got a garlic flavor. Really great. Excellent, excellent. And I see Nancy's jumping out there saying, goodbye, Enoch and friends. Need to get busy. Great show. Thank you all. Well, thank you for joining with us here. Thank you, everybody, for joining with us. Actually, we are about that time of the day where it's about time for us to wrap up as well. Definitely, definitely have a great show today again. Kind of really laid back today, really kind of quiet, everybody. Last couple of weeks were really we had some real good conversations going on, but that's all right. There's no problem with having a nice little mellow Saturday this week. And then what we can do is get everything, like I said, ramped up and ready to get going for our show here in the coming weeks as we start moving towards March. And again, too, I'm still trying to negotiate one or two things that I need to confirm before I start announcing what we're going to be doing, what the rollout, who are our first guests and all of that are going to be. But we're getting real close here in the next week or two for us to start talking about all of that as we start moving towards March. And again, to our spring is just right around the corner. I mean, can you believe it? I mean, the year is, it's literally February 17th right now. We're moving towards the end of February here in the next week or two, and moving into March. And March means the beginning of spring, the beginning of really what's what we all look forward to every single year. But it is fastly approaching us very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. So again, if you're here with us right now and you haven't had a chance to yet, hit that like button, give us a big thumbs up for our show today, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you along for our garden adventures, and go check out our new video that we just put out here yesterday, our new garden journal. And again, like I said, hopefully I'll keep up with all of those and have a nice fun adventure in our gardens this year for you all to follow along with us there as well. as our show here each and every Saturday, and hopefully some Sundays coming up as well too. We'll talk a lot more about that in some future live streams here in the next couple of weeks. And be sure to share with all your friends. Help us build this audience up. You guys are my street team out there. I need all of you. I need all of you to help us get the word out, help let all these other gardeners out there know about this really awesome, fun show and gardening conversation, and all of these amazing guests and gardeners that we get to talk to each and every week on our Let's Get Growing show. So get out there, let everybody know about what we've got growing on here, and help us build this audience up this year. It's really our number one goal this year. So I'm counting on everybody to really be able to get in there and help us get some things growing here. And again, too, you can check us out also at letsgetgrowing.live, our website. And I'm going to throw this out here real quick, too. We do have a sponsor for the show, and that's Ivy Organics. You can go check out Ivy Organics at ivyorganics.com. Use our promo code GROW10. They've got some really cool, organic fertilizer. But the really cool thing that they have is this 3-in-1 plant guard. It's this organic plant guard. I'm going to be doing some videos and some things on this here actually in the next few weeks and be showing you a little bit about that. I think it's just a really great, amazing, innovative product. I think every gardener should have in their garden shed. So go check that out. It's called 3-in-1 plant guard at Ivy Organics, and use our code there, GROW10, and save 10% off. Definitely. And I want to mention too, as we're ending the show, I did put out my video too, so get you going. We'll have more videos throughout the year talking all about my garden and showing you my garden. But I want to see all of your gardens as well too. So come join our garden community on Facebook, the Let's Get Growing group. There's a link down below in the description, and there you can share all of your garden adventures, garden pictures and video, whatever you want to share with us on that group. Jump in there and share with us, because I'd love to see everything that you got growing on as well too. And it's also another way to continue the conversation and talk with other people in our gardening community. We have some great conversations that happen each week here on the show, and we can really continue those conversations in our Facebook Let's Get Growing gardening community there too. So definitely go check that link out down below in the description and join with us if you haven't already, and then go share some pictures too. I want to see your gardens. I want to see what you got growing on. All right, so yeah, also be sure to follow all of our links down below. Check out our Instagram, check out some of the different things that we have to offer for different content. And again, especially too, with that Instagram, that's a great place where you see like pictures and stuff. That's where I share like all the pictures, and you get to see some more like of each individual things and the different things that I'm growing through the Instagram account too. So that's kind of some content that you don't get through the videos or on the show or anything like that, is to actually really get into my garden and see what we're actually growing. So that's a really great place to do that as well too. So yeah, definitely. And as Jay says, thanks to all for being here today. Spread the word about the show, invite your garden friends, and we will see all of you next week.